The world of music was transformed in the early 90s when Music Player 3, or MP3 as we know it today, was launched. It completely revolutionized the world of music and how people across the world would hear songs. MP3 became the default setting for listening to music. And I'm honored to be joined today by Professor Karlheinz Brandenburg, the father of MP3. It was a group of scientists that under Professor Brandenburg that developed MP3 decades ago. It's an honor to be speaking with you, Professor Brandenburg.
Thank you very much. Hello to everybody. And yes, this was a great time, of course, with many people involved. I always shrug a little bit if somebody calls me the father of MP3, because I know who else was involved, and that was quite a number of people, both in Erlangen, at other places in Europe, in the US, in the standardization effort, and so on.
I have to ask you this, Professor. Did you realize that your invention all those decades ago, more than 3 decades ago, would so completely transform music listening across the world?
Not really. We, of course, had hopes. And I remember I was asked in '88 what would come out of my research at the university. And I said, okay, if everything goes according to plans, there will be millions of people using the technology. I was off by a factor of 1,000. It's literally billions. It's nearly everybody around. So that really exceeded the dreams, but still, in the mid-90s, when the question was what to do with the technology, we really wanted to use the internet, which was at that time still quite new, for exchange of music, for streaming of music, and so on.
Right. And now, Professor Brandenburg, you've got AI that's come in. You have AI that's completely transformed music. It's actually, you have machines that are mimicking human voices, music, all that. Do you see that as the next big revolution after MP3?
That's difficult to say, because for me, it's a development which goes step by step over a long time again. And we have worked, in fact, for 25 years on music information retrieval. That is to understand music and so on, to recognize music. That was the early work. We, as you said, got now help in doing new music with computers. We have fake voices and all that. Yes, that's a big development. Whether that's the next revolution, I'm not sure. There are other big developments which are less connected to AI around as well, like all the spatial audio, immersive audio, and so on. That's the topics on which I'm working now.
I want to ask you about your ongoing project, Professor. You're working on intelligent headphones for super hearing with your team at the Brandenburg Labs. What exactly is this?
Okay, that's an old dream as well. More than 50 years ago, people tried to do with headphones the same you could do with a great system of loudspeakers. With loudspeakers, in fact, with the work on done at Delft and later on in Ilmenau, you can have the impression of being somewhere else and really having sound sources with you in the room or outside the room. With headphones, always it sounded like something in your head or near your head. And people have worked on that for a long time. We finally, with the help of some basic research, understood what was wrong all the time, what we overlooked in the way our brain works. And we can use that now to have an actual sound source in the room reproduced in a way that people can't distinguish that from the actual sound source or the virtual sound source on the headphones. And if you combine, yeah.
Please continue. Sorry.
If you combine that later on with artificial intelligence, like you're in a room with too many people around, you want to listen to certain people and not to others, we can do AI-supported selective hearing, and that's what somebody coined super hearing in the end. That's having headphones which make you improve your hearing, like glasses improve our visual sense.
Right, fascinating. This is the stuff of sci-fi, almost, Professor. When can we hope to buy these headphones with super hearing?
The first step is now, but only for professionals. Like people in recording studios want to use this technology to check their mixes when they are at other places, or to do mixing when they don't have the full multi-channel 16 loudspeaker setup available. So that's what we call Okeanos Pro, and it's sold now since last fall. The next generation will be for high-end users, people who are used to spend a lot of money for their AV equipment at home, to give them, even in smaller rooms, the impression of having really a big loudspeaker setup and a special room at home. So that's what we call Okeanos Home. And we plan to have that available end of next year. And the next generation then will be for everybody. That's what we call party personalized auditory reality. That's how I explained to you what super hearing could mean. But that's a few years old.
Right, and that super hearing would help people who aren't. Could it, for instance, help the deaf listen here? Is it like a super hearing aid, for instance?
There is some overlap with hearing aids, but hearing aid is a completely separate range of development. So yes, with these you could. It's first meant for the rest of us, even for young people who want to have that as a nice gadget. But of course, if I'm older and get into trouble distinguishing the people I'm standing with, it can help with that as well. It's not for the real hard of hearing like hearing aids we have today. That's still different technology.
And how do you see the disruption potential of this super hearing technology that you're working on? In terms of, would it be like an MP3 for music listening? The way MP3 was in '91, will this be the same?
We are dreaming of that same way of getting people really to use it all over the world. So for that, we have to be fast. I know other big companies who want to do the same thing, but the idea is that this really could be used over time by hundreds of millions of people, if not more.
Hundreds of millions of people. And this is the date for this is going to be 2026. You're saying it's going to be commercially available in 2026.
No, 26 is the earlier version. And that's more expensive. That won't be for hundreds of millions of people. I think that's more like 28, 29 or so.
In 2029. So by the end of this decade, we can hope for this kind of technology to, be available commercially. I mean, that's absolutely fascinating. But, Professor Brandenburg, tell us about your visit to India. What do you plan to do here? Is this your first visit? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I've been to India quite a number of times. In fact, I've been to some of the Tech Fest by some institutes of technology. I've been at conferences in India, in Bengaluru, for example. I've been, I think, a number of times. Last time was in Chennai, that's some years ago. And this time I will attend ICAS, the International Conference on Acoustic Speech and Signal Processing, where in the so-called industry track, I will give a talk about what we are doing currently and what the ideas are, just like what you asked for. And
right, absolutely.
I'll do a visit to a university there as well, and maybe we'll talk to more journalists. But let's see.
Right. We're looking forward to your visit, Professor Brandenburg. Thank you very much for your time, and we can't wait to get hold of those super hearing sets that you promised us by next year. And I'm sure it's going to be as breakthrough as MP3 was. Thank you very much for joining us here on News9.